The Dark Scrolls. The tavern door creaked slowly open, not with the hurried force of drunken youth, but with the tired push of a traveler who had seen too much cold and far too little light. You step inside, shoulders hunched beneath a damp wool cloak, the scent of earth still clinging to your boots. And there it is, warmth. Not just the fire dancing in the hearth, but the kind that lives in low voices and full tankards, in rooms that remember laughter like old friends do. The air smells of smoke and roasted meat, with a tang of ale and something older still. Damp straw underfoot, the faint musk of sweat-soaked linen, and the lingering sharpness of salted pork. There is a haze to the room, but not one of mystery. It's a comfortable blur, like the edges of a dream you've entered too slowly to know when waking left, and sleep began. The tavern glows golden under candlelight. Flames flicker against blackened beams above, casting shadows that sway with the murmur of bodies below. No one looks up as you enter. Not because you're unwelcome, but because no one ever enters a medieval tavern to make a grand entrance. They come to disappear, to dissolve into the company of those who ask no questions. A place where names don't matter, only the tilt of your cup and the silence of your sighs. The bench groans beneath you as you sit. The wood is uneven, worn smooth by countless cloaked travelers, farmers, soldiers, mothers, and sons. At the table, a crust of bread is left behind from someone else's meal, half-eaten, its edges hardened like memory. A tankard is set down in front of you with a soft thud. No words exchanged, no need. The ale is cloudy and warm, barely foaming. It smells faintly of yeast and something green, like herbs picked without care. You take a sip. It is bitter, but not in a cruel way. The bitterness feels earned, like something honest. This is not the ale of kings, nor of cities. This is the drink of hands that build, of backs that bend, of lives lived in honest toil. All around you, the tavern breathes. A man 2 seats down leans back and laughs, head tilted as if he's trying to hold the ceiling in place with the volume of his mirth. His teeth are yellow, but his eyes are alive. A woman near the hearth leans forward with a ladle, pouring thick stew into a bowl for a child who fell asleep before the food arrived. A fiddler in the corner plucks at 3 strings, 2 of them in tune, one forever rebellious. But the sound fits. The music isn't meant to dazzle, it's meant to cradle. There is no clock here, no sense of passing time, only the rhythm of ale being poured, of firewood shifting in the hearth, of boots thudding gently on old floorboards. You could be in the 12th century or the 14th. It wouldn't matter. In this room, years are worn smooth, like stone steps, beneath centuries of feet. A man sits across from you. He has the face of someone who's seen frostbite and betrayal, but tonight his expression is soft. His fingers cradle a half-empty mug, and he speaks only to the wood beneath his hands. He murmurs something about his brother lost to plague, or war, or love. It's hard to tell, but you nod all the same. You understand. In this room, sorrow doesn't need translation. It only needs company. The ale begins to warm your blood, your shoulders ease. You notice how quiet the loud moments actually are. Even the laughter seems woven into the wood, like a sound this room has always known. No one here drinks to forget. They drink to remember, or to remember less harshly, to soften the edges of days spent under gray skies and heavier laws. Some drink to warm themselves before the walk home. Others drink because they have no home to walk to. The tavern maid moves like smoke, efficient, graceful, indifferent. Her apron is stained, her hands red from cold water and scalding stew, but her eyes miss nothing. She trades coin for drink with a nod, no smile, but no coldness either. This is not a place of performance. It's a place of need. She knows exactly how full your cup should be, and exactly when to leave you alone with it. A group of laborers crowd the table by the window. One of them pounds a fist in the air as he tells the same story for the third time tonight. The fish was longer than his arm. The taxman cowered at the sight of him. The noble's daughter smiled his way. None of it is true. All of it is believed. That is the magic of ale. It doesn't distort reality. It simply lets the listener choose which version they prefer tonight. Outside, the wind begins to howl. Inside, it is barely noticed. The walls are thick, the fire steady, the company reliable in its silence. A dog sleeps by the door, twitching in dreams of rabbit chases or past scraps. Someone spills a bit of their drink. No one reacts. No one apologizes. In this place, even mistakes are part of the furniture. Your second cup arrives without request. The tavern maid raises her brow slightly as she places it down, just enough to ask, "Are you sure?" And just enough to say, "I understand." You raise it slowly. The mug is heavy in your hand, the way ancient things always are. You take a longer sip this time. The bitterness is gone, or maybe it's just that you've learned to expect it. A song starts, not from the fiddler, but from the far end of the room. A voice deep and tired, more hum than tune. Another joins in, then another, and suddenly the room hums with a kind of unpracticed harmony. The words are in a dialect long forgotten, but the melody is a blanket. It wraps around the shoulders of everyone present, even those who do not sing. Especially those. No one claps when it ends. There's only the clink of mugs and a sigh from someone by the fire. The silence after the song is not empty. It is full of stories untold. You close your eyes for a moment. The bench beneath you is harder than you'd like. The heat from the fire only reaches your left shoulder. Your boots are still wet, but something settles inside you. A weight, yes, but a familiar one. The kind you forget you're carrying until you put it down. The tavern holds it for you. You don't remember when the candle on your table burned this low, or when the fiddler stopped playing, or when the man across from you stood and left without a word. All you know is that the noise has softened, and your mug is nearly empty again. And you are no longer cold. The tavern doesn't empty. It exhales, like a beast that has eaten and now curls in on itself, belly warm, eyes half closed. A few men rise, stretch, and stagger toward the door, wrapping their cloaks tightly around them, their silhouettes swallowed by the night before the latch clicks shut again. The wind presses briefly at the cracks, but the room doesn't flinch. It's seen worse storms, worse years. A quiet settles, not silence, but something gentler. The murmur of low conversation, the scrape of a spoon against a wooden bowl, a cough muffled by a sleeve, and always the fire. The sound of it isn't like anything else, not crackling but whispering, like wood telling secrets as it turns to smoke. You find yourself staring into it now, forgetting why, only knowing you don't want to look away. There's a man near the hearth carving a bit of wood. Not for sale, not for anyone, just shaping for the sake of shaping. His hands are rough, fingers thick as branches, and yet the movements are patient, almost tender. A small horse takes form under the knife. Or maybe it's a dog. He never looks up, and no one asks. Everyone here is busy with something, or nothing, and both are acceptable. A younger boy, perhaps 12 or so, is sweeping near the back wall. His broom is too tall, and he moves in awkward circles like he's still learning the rhythm of work. He's been scolded twice by the cook for scattering more than he gathers, but even the rebukes sound tired, more habit than anger. He'll get it right eventually, or he won't. The tavern has room for both kinds of people. You shift on the bench again, your body finally surrendering to the shape of the seat. It is strange how comforting discomfort can be when it's shared, when no one pretends the bench is softer than it is, or the drink sweeter, or the world outside kinder. Everything here is as it is, honest, unvarnished, safe in its roughness. The woman near the wall begins braiding her own hair. Her hands move slowly, not for beauty, but for calm. It's something to do. The man beside her, possibly her husband, possibly not, plays with the strap of his boot, threading it in and out of his fingers. Their mugs are full, but untouched. They are not here to drink. They are here because they've nowhere else to be. That's something rarely said, but always understood. A medieval tavern was not a destination. It was a pause, a brief forgetting, a borrowed room in which to rest the soul, even if the body stayed weary. You glance again at your mug, still warm. Or maybe your hands have adjusted to the coldness. Either way, you drink. The taste has changed again. It tastes like the room now, wood, ash, and old stories. You wonder how many conversations have happened in this corner, how many lives have passed through these benches, these beams, this hearth. The thought doesn't feel heavy, it feels comforting, like you're part of something old and forgiving. A shadow passes behind you. It's the innkeeper, a man with a limp that he no longer hides because it's been his companion longer than his wife. He doesn't speak unless spoken to, and even then his answers are no longer than they need to be. But there's kindness in the way he adjusts the candle by your table, pulling the stub to the center so it doesn't drown in its own wax. A small act, unnoticed, unthanked, but not unmeaningful. Someone asks for more stew. The cook grunts in reply. A dog barks once and is hushed with a piece of bone. The boy finally stops sweeping. He leans on the broom, staring into nothing, or everything. It's hard to say which. The tavern is not full, but it is enough. Enough voices to feel alive, enough silence to feel alone. It holds both well. And you, somewhere between the two, begin to feel the ale work its slow magic, not a spinning, not a blur, but a softening, of thoughts, of pain, of time. In the corner, two older men play a game with carved stones. The rules are unclear, perhaps even to them. But each move is followed by a grunt or a nod, and every now and then a laugh that turns quickly into a cough. Their hands tremble, but their focus is steady. They could be brothers or strangers, or ghosts playing the same game night after night. The fire dies down a little. No one stokes it. Not yet. Its dimming is allowed, like the end of a song no one wants to interrupt. You feel your own eyelids grow heavier, not from sleepiness but from stillness, a rare, welcomed stillness, as if the body for once has nothing more to flee from. And then another sound, a new one, a voice at the door. The latch lifts, a traveler enters, cloak-soaked, hair matted, eyes searching. For what, he doesn't know, but the tavern receives him the way it received you, without judgment, without urgency. A mug will be set, a place will be found, a silence will be shared. You watch him, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. He is you, or you were him. It no longer matters. The tavern folds him in. Someone begins telling a story at the far end of the room. The kind of story that starts with a whisper but ends in laughter. A tale about a pig that ran through a church or a noble who mistook a chamber pot for wine. It's absurd. It's crude. It's perfect. Laughter blooms. It's not loud, but it's true. You smile, maybe, just slightly. Not because the story is funny, but because it reminds you how long it's been since you've heard real laughter. You finish your mug. This time you place it down slowly, as if the wood might remember your touch, as if it already does. The tavern doesn't ask for anything, not your name, not your coin, only your presence, and maybe, just maybe, a piece of your story, not to keep, just to hold for a little while, and so you give it, quietly, by staying. Somewhere nearby, a woman begins to hum, not a song meant for anyone, not a performance, just a simple tune to herself. It wavers, uncertain at first, like it's been years since the melody last found her lips. But soon it steadies, filling the air like steam rising from a warm cup. No one hushes her. No one joins in. It's not that kind of moment. This is not a tavern of spectacle. It is a tavern of sighs, of remembrance, of leaving just enough of yourself behind to feel less alone. You lean back slowly. Your spine feels each curve of the bench, the ache of age, of work, of days spent in weather too harsh and company too distant. But here the ache is allowed. No one masks pain in this place. They carry it like cloaks, heavy, wet, but familiar. And yet, for a time, you forget the weight. A man snores lightly in the corner, his head tilted awkwardly against a wooden post. No one wakes him. His mug still sits beside him, half full, now cold. Perhaps it was never drunk. Perhaps that was never the point. Some people come here to talk, others to listen, and some simply to sit among others and be left alone. The candlelight dims further. A few flames sputter out, leaving wicks curled and smoky. Still, the tavern holds its warmth. A warmth not entirely from fire or drink, but from the strange unspoken pact between all who gather here, that for tonight no one is here to take, only to rest, to drift. You look again to the fire. There are shapes in it, always. Not just flames, but faces. A horse's gallop, a child's hand reaching, a banner in wind. The fire remembers things no one speaks aloud, and as you watch, your breath slows. Not because you are tired, but because you are safe. There is a difference, and it matters. The boy with the broom has now curled up near the door, his back against the thick wall. His eyes are closed. One of his boots is missing. The other dangles from his foot like an afterthought. No one covers him. No one needs to. The tavern itself will do that. A fresh pot of ale is carried out from the back, not because anyone asked, but because the innkeeper knows when thirst returns without invitation. He pours it quietly, steadily, into worn mugs. The smell carries, yeasty, nutty, almost like bread half-baked. It smells of something that never finished becoming what it was meant to be. Like most things, perhaps. You don't take another cup. Not tonight. The first two were enough. More would blur the quiet. And this quiet is sacred. From your seat you can see carvings in the table, names, shapes, a poorly drawn face with a crooked smile. Someone once cared enough to leave a mark, or perhaps they had nothing better to do. But even that act, the dragging of a knife tip across soft wood, feels tender now. The table holds memories in its scars, the way people do, the way you do. Outside, the moon is rising. You cannot see it, but you feel its pull, the hush that falls over everything, the reverence of night in a world without clocks, without glow, without noise, but for the wind and the owl. Night is not an ending here. It's a deepening. Your head tilts back. The ceiling above you is low, beams darkened by centuries of smoke and stories. You imagine the first fire built in this hearth, the first mug raised, the first laugh, the first tear, and then your eyes begin to close, not from weariness, not even from the ale, but from the lull of time itself, folding inward, inviting you to stop thinking, to stop remembering, to stop resisting. Just for now. Around you, the tavern continues. Someone speaks, someone breathes, someone pours. But these are distant things. They belong to the world outside your closing eyes. In this place, you do not dream of castles or wars or riches. You dream of warmth, of flickering candles, of hands wrapped around wood and drink and stories. You dream of a place where no one asks who you are and no one needs to. The bench beneath you is hard, but you don't mind. It has held thousands before you. It will hold thousands after. Tonight, it holds you. And for the first time in a very long time, that is enough. You wake, but not fully. The line between sleep and awareness is thinner here, like the thread of candle smoke curling through the air. Your body hasn't moved. Your back still rests against the same rough bench. The mug remains empty before you, but something in the room has shifted. A breath held, a memory stirred, a silence not quite like the one before. The tavern is dimmer now, but not darker. The fire has burned lower, but its glow is deeper, redder, like the last light before a dream ends. Fewer voices drift through the haze. Some have gone. Others have simply quieted. You listen, not with ears, but with presence. And the room speaks back, not in words, but in weight. The boy by the door still sleeps, knees pulled to his chest. The woman with the braids now leans against her partner, his arm around her shoulders in a gesture not new, but somehow renewed by the night. The old men and their stones are gone, or maybe they've become part of the furniture now, just another pair of shadows at a corner table. You stand slowly, not to leave, just to move. The wooden floor groans beneath your boots, each step careful, as if your very movement might wake something older than time that rests within these walls. The hearth crackles softly. Someone has added a log. You didn't see who. No one did. In this place, fire tends to itself. It always has. You find yourself drawn toward the back of the room, past the main tables, and toward a narrower hallway lit by a single lantern swinging gently from a rusted hook. The hallway is lined with doors, rooms, perhaps, or closets, or stories yet to be told. One is open slightly, and from within, a faint tune hums, a woman's voice singing not to entertain but to remember. The words are too old to understand, but the ache in them is familiar. It sounds like loss. It sounds like hope surviving just enough to keep the breath behind it alive. You don't stay. You walk on. At the far end of the tavern, near the rear wall, there's a different kind of table. Not for drinking, not for talking. It holds nothing but an old ledger and a stub of charcoal. Guests write names there sometimes, or don't. Some leave dates, some leave prayers, some draw only circles. You trace your finger along a page, ink smudged, faded by ale spills and years. Someone wrote only one word, waited. You don't write anything. You turn back toward the hearth. Someone new has entered. A woman cloaked in dark green, soaked from the rain. Her eyes are sharp but tired. She doesn't look around. She moves with certainty to the fire and stands there, hands outstretched. She doesn't speak. No one speaks to her. But the tavern shifts slightly, adjusting to her presence, the way water makes room for a stone. This is how it always is. A place like this doesn't reject. It absorbs. She removes her hood. Her hair is silver at the edges, her face lined with a life that demanded endurance. But there is strength in her stillness, the kind earned, not born, the kind that doesn't need to be proven. The innkeeper brings her a drink. They exchange no words, but their silence speaks volumes. Perhaps they knew each other once. Perhaps they only know each other now through nights like this, repeated through winters and stories told only in glances. She sips her drink, and the fire lights her face just enough to soften it. Behind you, the fiddler begins to play again. A different tune this time. Slower. Not mournful, but reflective. Like a river remembering the sea it came from. No one sings. But the melody drifts between the beams, slips beneath tables, curls around boots and mugs and unfinished meals. You sit again, not in your old spot, but in a new one. A smaller table near the window. Rain taps softly against the glass. Outside, the street is empty. Or perhaps full of ghosts. You can't be sure. But either way, you are not curious. Not tonight. Your hands rest on the table. Still, for the first time in days, or weeks, or seasons, they are not fidgeting. There is nothing left to grasp, nothing left to hold on to, only the moment. and the warmth it offers, quiet and unpromised. A figure sits across from you. You didn't see them approach. An older man, face soft with age, though his shoulders still carry the echo of strength. He doesn't speak. He only nods. You return the gesture. And that is enough. In a world that demands stories, it is rare to find a space that lets you exist without explanation. You watch each other for a moment. Or perhaps you simply share the same air. Then he reaches into his coat and places a small wooden carving on the table between you. A horse, or a dog, or something else entirely. The edges are worn, the shape crude, but it holds meaning. Maybe for him, maybe now for you. He leaves it there and stands. No words, no reason. He walks away, and you do not follow. You stare at the carving. The fire catches on it. It flickers once, then stills. Another cup of ale arrives. You didn't ask for it. You don't need to. The tavern knows. You don't drink right away. Instead, you close your eyes just briefly, and when you open them again, the woman in the green cloak is gone. The ledger has been closed. The broom rests neatly against the wall. The fiddler hums quietly, lost in thought. And you are still here. The night is not yet over, but you no longer wait for morning. You wait for nothing, and in that you rest. The ale in your new cup sits untouched, yet its warmth rises faintly into the air, mingling with the fading scent of firewood and the earthy traces of wet wool and leather. You run your finger lightly along the rim, feeling the uneven glaze, a small imperfection that makes it real, human. There are no polished glasses here, no crystal goblets, only mugs made by hand and by need. The wooden figurine remains on the table between your hands. Its identity doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that it was left, that it was shared, a gift without condition, without expectation. You begin to wonder how many such tokens have passed through these tables, traded not for value, but for meaning. A button, a feather, a poem scratched into the grain of the wood, a sigh held a little longer than usual. Somewhere near the fireplace, a log collapses inward with a sigh of sparks. The flames flicker higher for a moment, sending waves of light across the stone walls. In that brief illumination, you notice a tapestry you hadn't seen before. Faded with smoke and time, it depicts a scene that's hard to place. Figures in robes, a forest, a fire, a beast perhaps, or simply a shadow misread. The image doesn't matter. What matters is that it's hung there for decades, maybe centuries, and no one questions it. It belongs here, like the rest of it. A man passes by your table carrying a lute strapped across his back. He doesn't play. Not yet. Perhaps not tonight. He walks with the slow confidence of someone who knows his place in a room without needing to take up space. His boots leave wet prints on the floor. He nods once at the innkeeper, once at the hearth, then disappears up the stairs near the far wall. There is a second level to this tavern. Few go up, fewer come down. Perhaps there are rooms to sleep in, or perhaps it is simply a place for those who wish to disappear more completely. You take another sip of ale. It is cooler now, but the flavor has changed. Or you have. There is a hint of spice you didn't notice before, something like cloves or dried orange peel. Perhaps a memory, perhaps just the taste of old wood and older nights. The woman with the braids has left. The man she leaned on still sits alone. He does not seem lonely. He fingers a ring on his hand, turning it slowly over and over. It may have been hers, or his, or someone else's. The ring is not the story. The turning is. At another table, 3 travelers sit hunched together, speaking in low tones. Their cloaks are stiff with mud, their hands wrapped tightly around their mugs. They speak in a language you don't know, but their weariness is universal. One of them pulls out a coin purse, counts the weight, hesitates. The innkeeper watches from behind the bar, but does not interrupt. Eventually, the man puts the purse away and drinks slower. The innkeeper nods once, barely, and moves on. This is not a place where wealth earns you more than patience. The boy is awake now, still quiet, but awake. He's moved closer to the fire, rubbing his hands together for warmth. The cook tosses him a bit of crust. He catches it without looking, tears it with his teeth, chews slowly. In his eyes there is the look of someone growing up without ever being asked whether they were ready to. But tonight he is warm. Tonight he is fed, and for tonight, that is enough. You exhale slowly, watching the way your breath curls in the air before it fades. There is something beautiful about things that disappear. Not violently, not tragically, just naturally, like breath, like stories, like nights. The music starts again, not from the fiddler this time and not from any instrument. Just humming, low and rhythmic, rising like mist from a few voices scattered across the room. A shared tune with no lyrics, only sound. It is old. You feel it in your ribs, in the weight behind your eyes. It belongs to this room. Perhaps it built the walls. Perhaps it's what holds the roof up. You hum too. Quietly, just enough to join but not to disturb. Time folds again. You lose track of how long you sit there, how long the humming lasts. It doesn't matter. Time does not measure meaning in this place. It only holds space for it. A woman walks past your table. She wears a red shawl, frayed at the edges but clearly cared for. In her hand is a small pouch. She opens it briefly, shows the contents to no one. Maybe herbs, maybe bones, maybe memories. She moves through the room slowly, then sits near the window where you were earlier. Her presence adds something. Not noise, not color, just a new thread in the fabric of this place. You wonder how many people here are passing through, and how many are simply circling back. You wonder how many came for the drink, and how many came to be forgotten, or remembered, or both. The bartender wipes a mug clean with a cloth that's more memory than fabric now. His movements are automatic but not careless. There is reverence in the way he handles things, as if he understands that even the smallest object here contains someone's evening, someone's escape. He looks at you, not with question, not with expectation, just a soft glance, a check-in. A moment of acknowledgement between two souls who won't share words tonight. You nod once. That is enough. Outside, the rain has slowed. Or perhaps stopped. The window is fogged. You can no longer see what lies beyond. You are not curious. What matters is inside, and inside the fire glows lower now. The coals are red. The flames are few. The tavern has quieted again. You stand slowly. The legs ache, the knees protest, but they carry you. You walk once more to the old table near the ledger. This time you pick up the charcoal. You hold it in your hand. The weight is familiar, though you don't know why. You write nothing, but before you leave, you press your thumb gently onto the page, just once, leaving behind a soft, dark mark. It is not a name, but it is a trace. And then, without looking back, you return to your place by the hearth. The mug is still there, the fire still burning, and though nothing has changed, everything feels different, because now you are part of the tavern too, not just a guest, but a ghost, a memory the wood will remember, long after you've gone. You remain by the hearth long after the room has exhaled its final breath of laughter. The last flickers of fire glow low, softening every face into sculpture and shadow. The quiet has deepened. Not silence, but something more sacred. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask for sleep, only presence. Your hand rests loosely on the side of the mug, long since emptied, yet somehow still full of meaning. Outside, the wind rises again. You hear it brushing against the stone, curling through unseen cracks, the voice of a world that never quite sleeps. But inside, the tavern holds. Its bones are strong, its memory older than the men who built it. You imagine the first night this place was opened, the first warmth it offered, the first story told by candlelight and met with nods instead of applause. It must have felt much the same as this. Perhaps quieter, perhaps louder, perhaps exactly like now. The woman with the red shawl still sits near the window. She doesn't move, only watches the fog or the reflection of the room behind the glass. Her pouch lies open beside her now. A few herbs spill out, lavender, sage, and something you can't name. Not medicine, but something older, something remembered. The boy has gone. You didn't see him leave. Perhaps he climbed the narrow staircase. Perhaps he vanished into the woodwork, like steam through stone. You do not worry. The tavern cares for its own, even the smallest. Your eyes scan the beams above. Each is carved with marks, names, dates, symbols, half erased by smoke. A spiral, a star, a pair of crossed swords, a heart with no initials. You wonder who left them. You wonder what they needed to remember, or to forget. There's movement at the door, a slow opening. No rush. A tall figure enters, cloaked in black. Rainwater pools at his boots as he steps inside. He pauses only once, eyes adjusting, shoulders hunched from cold. The innkeeper looks up, nods once, and gestures toward a far table. The man obeys without a word, sits in silence and removes his gloves. His fingers are long and pale, the nails slightly cracked. He does not look around. He waits. The mug arrives shortly after. No request made, no coin exchanged. This is not a place where hunger is met with suspicion. The tavern does not ask who you are, only whether you need warmth. From your place by the fire, you study him, not out of suspicion, but curiosity. There is a story in his silence, in the way his shoulders rest lower now, in the way his hands remain on either side of the mug without touching it. He is not dangerous, but he has seen danger, and tonight he does not wish to speak of it. That is allowed. The fiddler is gone. The lute remains in the corner, leaning gently against the wall like a sleeping animal. Someone has laid a wool blanket over the back of a chair near it. Another kindness done quietly. Another act with no need for recognition. You rise again, this time with less stiffness. Your body has adjusted to the pace of the night. A pace not measured in minutes or hours, but in breaths, in glances, in unspoken offerings. You cross the floor, slowly, your boots tapping softly against the old wood. The tall man doesn't look up as you pass, but he doesn't need to. His stillness is not a wall. It's a shore, and like the sea, it waits for what comes, without judgment. You approach the bar. The innkeeper wipes his hands slowly on a cloth, then sets it down. He doesn't speak, but his eyes meet yours. They are tired, but not weary, alive in a quiet way, like embers that will not die, no matter how long the night lasts. You nod once. He pours. This drink is different, darker, richer, a deeper amber that clings to the edge of the cup. It smells of smoke and honey and something faintly bitter, like truth. You carry it back to the hearth and sit. The warmth returns, not just from the fire, but from the ritual itself. The carrying, the receiving, the acknowledgement. A young couple sits at the table where you first entered. Their faces are flushed from the cold and from something more. Their hands keep finding each other, pulling away, finding again. They speak little, they smile less, but their presence is bright, not loud, but new, like spring hiding beneath winter's last frost. Their arrival shifts the room gently, not as a ripple, but as a leaf falling on water. The tavern receives them too, the same way it received the merchant earlier, the boy, the woman, the man in black, and you, without question, without needing a name. You sip slowly. The drink is heavy on the tongue, almost sweet, but it fades into heat. You feel it bloom beneath your ribs, behind your eyes. It does not intoxicate, it remembers. Your mind drifts, not away, but inward, to an older you walking these roads long ago, maybe in another life, maybe earlier this one. You remember a different tavern, or maybe the same, but in another season. The fire burned higher then. There was music. There was loss. A friend whose name you no longer speak. A promise you did not keep. A night like this where breath turned to frost outside, and the ale was warm, and the silence kinder than words. The firewood shifts again. The sound calls you back. You are here. Still. And the night, somehow, is not yet over. You blink slowly, and in that moment, the room softens again. Not because it changes, but because you begin to see it differently, as if the longer you stay, the more the tavern reveals, not through grand gestures, but through details. The way candle wax pools and spills, hardened like frozen breath. The worn step in the center of the floor, where hundreds have crossed with burdens heavier than coin. The patch of wall where the smoke always settles first, painting it darker than the rest. You wonder how many tears this room has witnessed, how many confessions it has absorbed through stone and beam. Not all spoken aloud, some whispered in the silence between songs, some left behind in the pause before a door closed, some simply felt, never said. Your gaze drifts to the ceiling again. Up there, tucked into the rafters, you spot a length of faded ribbon, tied into a loose knot around a hook. It has no obvious purpose, yet someone once climbed up there and left it. Maybe in memory of a child, maybe as a joke, maybe because they needed to leave a piece of themselves in a place that would remember long after they were gone. The tavern remembers. That much you know. The tall man in black now rests his head in his hand, elbow on the table, fingers rubbing gently at his temple. Not out of pain, but habit. A gesture born of long nights and longer silence. He's no longer waiting for anything. He's simply here, held, like all of you. Another guest enters. This time a stout man in a heavy coat with cheeks flushed red from wind. He brings the cold with him, sharp, immediate, but it fades quickly at the threshold. He stamps his boots, mutters an apology to no one in particular, and sheds his outer layer. Underneath, his shirt is plain but clean. His hands are calloused. He carries a bundle, wrapped in cloth, and he holds it close to his chest as he crosses the room. He takes a seat near the back, away from the fire. Slowly, reverently, he unwraps the bundle. Inside is a loaf of bread, coarse, still warm, and beside it a small jar. Honey, perhaps, or lard. He eats quietly, offering a nod to the innkeeper before touching neither drink nor voice. Each bite is a ritual, each swallow a benediction. You can almost hear the prayer he's not saying. You realize then that the tavern isn't just a place to drink. It's a cathedral, not one of marble and stained glass, but of oak and iron and breath. Its sermons are soft, its gospel, silence, its God, memory. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to listen more closely. The fire speaks, the walls hum. Somewhere upstairs, a board creaks beneath a footstep. Somewhere below, a barrel settles into its shape. Every sound is alive. When you open your eyes again, the young couple is gone. Only their mugs remain, still bearing the wet rings of their presence. 2 empty chairs, 2 unfinished stories. You don't feel their absence as a loss, only a continuation. Their thread in the fabric has simply shifted, woven elsewhere now. The tavern doesn't cling. It only holds gently, then releases. Your drink is nearly gone. You take the final sip slowly, like the last line of a poem, and you set it down with care. There is reverence in that gesture, and the tavern feels it. From behind the bar, the innkeeper steps forward. He adds a fresh log to the hearth, not rushed, not for show. The flame accepts it with a sigh. The room brightens slightly, and you notice once more the outlines of the others around you. None are speaking. Yet no one is alone. The woman with the red shawl gathers her things. Her herbs, her pouch. She stands with effort, her spine slow to follow. She moves to the bar, places a small object in the innkeeper's hand, too small to see, too quiet to name. He nods. She leaves. The door opens, admits a chill, then shuts again. She is gone, and yet not. You sense a shift in yourself now, not large, not loud, but deep. A kind of settling, like dust that finally finds its place on a quiet shelf. You do not feel better. You feel whole. You did not come here to be fixed, only to be witnessed. And the tavern has done that. The fire crackles once more. You think of the people who will come tomorrow, of the laughter that will rise again, the arguments, the apologies, the music, the same walls, the same fire, a new night, a different ache. And still the tavern will stand, open, breathing, remembering. You don't know how long you've stayed. You don't care. Time has no hold here. Only warmth, only wood, only the soft rhythm of cups being raised and emptied, of footsteps across stone, of sighs in the dark. You rise, but not to leave, not yet. You walk slowly, one hand brushing the edge of each table as you pass, feeling the grooves, the scars, the history. A language written not in words, but in where. You arrive at the ledger once more. This time you do write. Not your name, not a date, just one sentence. I was here and I was not alone. You set the charcoal down and return to the fire. Outside, the sky is beginning to pale, but the tavern is still night, and inside you are still home. Dawn does not arrive with trumpets in places like this. It seeps in, quiet as dust, slow as thought. You don't notice the change until it's already there, until the darkness has faded just enough to make the candlelight look artificial, until the fire, though still burning, feels like memory instead of need. The tavern is not empty, but it is close. The innkeeper has disappeared into the back, perhaps to check the barrels or to rest his legs. The man in the black cloak now sleeps where he sat, head resting on folded arms, breath steady, a soft whistle escaping from his lips. His drink, half finished, sits beside him like a companion too polite to leave early. You feel no need to wake him. Sleep is sacred here, especially the kind that finally arrives after a night of carrying too much. The fire gives a final snap. You look into it once more, not for warmth, but out of habit, out of gratitude. There is little left now but glowing coals, red and patient, like hearts that have chosen rest over rhythm. You wonder how many fires this tavern has burned through, how many ashes it holds in its bones. You stretch your legs slightly, easing stiffness from your joints. You are not young, but in this place age is not worn as a burden. It is draped like a cloak, weathered but proud. No one here asks how many winters you've seen. They only ask with their silence if you are warm tonight. A breeze sneaks in from somewhere, through a window cracked just enough to breathe. It smells of earth, of wet stone, of a world beginning again. You draw it in deeply, let it sit in your chest. Then you let it go. Like so many things this night, you rise once more, not abruptly, with the patience of someone who knows there's no need to rush the end of something beautiful. The tavern is different now, not less alive, just quieter, like a book nearly finished, where the last few pages are turned slowly, so the story doesn't have to end just yet. The room holds a softness, a tenderness left behind by all those who came and left during the night. Their voices, their stories, their laughter and sorrow still hover in the beams, in the cushions of the benches, in the curls of smoke that haven't yet vanished. You feel them. You honor them. They are not gone. You make your way to the bar once again. The cloth still lies there, folded now. A single copper coin has been left beside it. Not payment, not offering, but remembrance. You place your hand beside it, then draw it back. You have nothing to leave that the tavern doesn't already hold. The door creaks softly, just once, and then opens. Morning light, gentle and gray, slips inside. Not harsh, not bright, just enough to touch the tops of the chairs and bring color back to the wood. You stand in the threshold for a moment, watching the mist curl along the street outside. The village beyond is still asleep. Even the crows have not yet begun their sermons. Behind you, the tavern breathes. You hear it, the slow inhale of a place that has done what it was made to do, to hold the night, and all it carried until morning came to lift it. You turn once more to look. There is no farewell in the air, no final moment, only continuation. You step outside. The cold greets you, but it does not bite. It simply reminds you that you've returned to the world where names matter, and time marches, and fires must be lit with your own hands. The tavern door closes behind you, not with a slam, not even with a sound, just the final whisper of wood touching wood. You walk slowly, your breath curling before you in soft puffs. Behind you, the tavern disappears into the fog like a story told only once and remembered forever. You carry no token, no carving, no ale, but you carry something still, a weight in your chest, a silence in your spine, a warmth that has nothing to do with fire. Your steps carry you down the empty path, boots pressing softly into the damp soil. The village is still cloaked in early morning hush. Smoke has not yet risen from chimneys, and shutters remain drawn. Even the dogs have not begun their restless pacing. It's as if the world has paused to give you this moment, a quiet farewell, a space to carry what was given. But as you walk, you feel it. The tavern, though out of sight, is still with you. It lingers behind the ribs, somewhere between breath and memory. You remember the curve of the bench, the weight of the cup, the hush of voices speaking without expectation. You remember the way the firelight softened the edges of the world. The road curves past a low stone wall where moss grows thick and soft. You pause for a moment there, resting your hand on its surface. It's cold, but familiar, like the surface of the mug when you first held it, before the warmth seeped into your palms. You think of the others, of all those who came before you, who stepped out of that same doorway and followed this same path, each carrying something intangible. Some walked into fields, some to war, some never returned, but all of them walked away with something quiet stitched into their soul. You can feel it now, not pride, not pain, something gentler, like understanding. A crow cries out above you, a single note splitting the silence. It startles no one. It simply reminds you that the day has begun. You reach a fork in the road. To the left, a trail leading into forest. Mist coils through the branches, and somewhere far beyond, the first faint light filters down like old gold through lace. To the right, the path winds toward the distant hills. A cart waits there, unmoving, its driver asleep with his back against the wheel. You take neither road. Not yet. Instead, you sit on the low wall, letting the morning press gently against your skin. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, but to hold, just a little longer, just until it fades, and slowly, piece by piece, it begins to fade, not in sorrow, not in loss, in the way that all things do when they've been fully lived. You breathe in, and for a moment you swear you still smell the fire. You hear the soft clink of wood on wood. You feel the rhythm of the fiddler's fingers tapping absent strings. But it's only wind, only memory, only the last pages turning. The sun lifts higher, though still veiled. The mist begins to break. You rise, the road waits, the village wakes. And the tavern, though now behind you, will walk with you for the rest of your life. You walk not quickly, not because there is somewhere urgent to be, but because the road asks for footsteps now, and you feel ready to give them. Each step takes you further from the tavern, but not further from its hold. It clings not to your clothes or hair or hands, but to your silence, to the way you now carry stillness like a second breath. You are no longer the person who first walked in from the cold. Something inside you shifted by the fire, not broken, not fixed, simply seen. The fields open wide on either side. Frost still lingers on the tops of grass blades, catching the new light. Insects remain asleep beneath bark and earth. The world is just beginning to stretch. And so are you. A cart rattles somewhere behind you, a farmer, perhaps, or a merchant returning from market. You don't turn to look. You don't need to. For the first time in a long time, your thoughts are not chasing anything. They are walking beside you, unrushed, unafraid. And in that quiet, memory finds you. You see the woman with the herbs, the shawl slipping from her shoulders as she stood to go. The boy curled at the edge of the fire, eating crust with both hands. The fiddler with his out-of-tune strings, playing not to be heard, but to feel something again. You see the man in black sleeping like a child folded into his own arms. You see the old hands that carved a horse, or was it a dog, and left it behind without a word. They are all part of you now, and somehow you are part of them. This is how the tavern works. It doesn't take. It weaves, it gathers stories, half-spoken and half-finished, and stitches them into the grain of its wood, into the curls of its smoke, into the silence between drinks. And in turn, it sends you out carrying some of it with you. Your boots find rhythm in the earth. You crest a low hill and pause at the top. From here, the village lies behind you like a memory still soft with breath. You can't see the tavern anymore, but you know where it is. You could walk back blindfolded and still find the door. But you don't. You stay a while longer on the hill, watching the sky, listening to the soft crackle of dawn. You think again of the words you left behind in the ledger. I was here, and I was not alone. You wonder who will read them. A stranger, a dreamer, someone like you. You smile just slightly, and then for the first time you whisper something aloud, only for yourself. Thank you. Not to a person, not even to the room, but to the feeling, the one that cradled you in firelight, that offered you a cup without question, that held your silence without needing to fill it. You begin walking again, down the other side of the hill, into the world, the real one, the louder one. And yet you carry with you a hush that nothing can quite steal. A hush made of wood smoke and worn mugs, of stories untold, and ones that never needed words at all. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.